That was how people woke up Sunday. CM Punk gets involved in the Drew McIntyre match finish and then costs him the belt. Memorable moment. Big CM Punk chants. The announcement did nothing to take away his popularity right now. Monday night, we'll get to the Raw review after Dynamite this week. CM Punk gets involved. Again, he's involved in a main event thing there, one of the top angles in the company, and everything with him and Drew is clicking right now. It's great.
Yeah.
Then we have Tuesday, waiting for what will be Dynamite. And ladies and gentlemen, this week, as I just said, we're going to review Dynamite before Raw, because I can't wait to hear what Jim has to say about this episode. Maybe the single worst episode of AEW Dynamite, the single most counterproductive episode of AEW Dynamite. It's astounding how bad it is. There's still people pretending that it's good. The matches are great. That's all that matters. Tony does a great job. He's doing this for all of us, and so that he can employ all these wonderful people that could never find a job if it wasn't for Tony. There's still people pretending, but things are looking really bleak.
Well, but and now, doom and gloom, doom and gloom. No reason to predict the sky is falling. I predict that they can do these lackluster shows filled with these juvenile delinquents airing their personal grievances in 20% full buildings for quite some time now before Shad Khan goes broke. So do not act like the sky is falling, Brian. But in this particular instance, and do you want to go in order of the whole show so we set the people up for it before we get to that security footage video?
You know, I think it's important to, because that's what everyone's talking about. That ends up being the big moment of the show. But the entirety of this show, of this promotion, of the energy around it, of the lack of momentum, of everyone telling you everything's great while the sky is falling. I get it. They're never going to go out of business. He's got endless amounts of money. It's not about that. It's bad. It's not good. If you see something on TV, if you see like a great talk show, like, wow, this talk show host is really good. That doesn't mean you're going to like every talk show. That doesn't mean you can't say, boy, that Jimmy Fallon fucking sucks. And there's a lot of people still pretending with AEW, but this was an all-time awful show in the midst of just a period of no one giving a shit, and the people that do acknowledging it's bad. Yes, let's go in order.
I will agree with you that this probably wasn't the week to lead with a, oh golly, something has happened that was so unexpected that the announcers don't know what the fuck's going on angle. Because a lot of them look like they don't know what's going on. So they were in Charleston, West Virginia. This is April the 10th, a red letter day in wrestling history. They're already, hashtag WCW 2000 was trending. And they were in Charleston, West Virginia at Civic Center. And I know that building very well. And I was telling you briefly before we went on the air, I don't even know. Perhaps you can find it from Thurston Howell. But with the upper deck empty and the lower bowl over half empty, and from the crowd shots or lack thereof, and how they took some more ceiling shots on their cover pitches, did they have 3,000 people?
I'm going to see what we can find out, but since you brought it up here, let's talk about it. Multiple shots, once again, of the ceiling, as opposed to just shooting a few fans talking to each other. Anything. Yes. They shoot the ceiling, a moving shot.
Find a cute child, for fuck's sake, if you can't do anything else.
Yeah, instead they do a moving shot of the ceiling. That helps.
But anyway, and Justin Roberts, the illegitimate son of Jake Roberts, was in the ring introducing immediately the world title eliminator match between Samoa Joe and Dustin Rhodes. And this is the deal where if Dustin beats him in a non-title match, then he gets a title match. And okay, fine, but Joe is coming out the entranceway and Swerve tackles him and spears him through a table. And the referees come out and tells, oh, Swerve, you got to leave. And now that you've committed this horrible, aggravated mayhem. And so the announcers are confused. What do we do? What do we do? And they're doing this to, oh my God. And I understand And I have done many times, oh shit, folks, something's happened here that's disrupted our broadcast. We've got to consult with the director of the truck, whatever. But this was articulated by a sock face in such a stagey, amateurish, and or markish way that you didn't believe it. And then Tony grunts, and I think Taz rolls his eyes, and and Zeppo becomes their agent when he gets off camera.
Hey, by the way, Jim, this is not necessarily a final count, but as of yesterday, Jim, according to WrestleTix, AEW Dynamite had 2,971 tickets distributed.
And that's distributed, not necessarily that everybody took them up on it, as we've come to find out in the past when we've looked at these things closely. Well, anyway, so the thing that they go to, but now bear in mind, they've just had a hot angle with the world champion and the number one challenger. I guess he's number one challenge. The guy everybody wants to see him win it from him. And they've got the biggest audience of the night, because the first quarter is always the biggest audience of the night. This is not like a revelation either. So what do? They just pitch, well, let's go to this. And it's the tape of Trent turning on Pockets and splitting up the best friends or whatever from the other night. After an angle with the main event guys in the highest rated quarter hour, they go to the fucking underneath comedy. What the fuck? And Renee Moxley Good that is standing there talking about the implosion of the best friends for 30 seconds and goes back to more baffled announcers. And I'm like, they can't pull off like they know what they're doing, so they can't pull off working like they don't know what they're doing when they actually allegedly know what they're doing. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but you say this is coming off the top angle with the guy that people want to win the title, and they do. Doesn't that even seem cooled off from what it was just a few weeks ago? The whole idea of people excited to see Swerve win the belt, is anyone talking about that?
Well, no, because they may have missed the time where people were kind of interested, but also everybody else is, shaking their heads at all the drama and the goofiness now of what they know, the fans know, because the company is telling them on and off television what the Bucks are doing with their goofiness and the pettiness, and the ostrich is going to bow up at Triple H here in a little while. And I miss with a lot better material and delivery than Maddie and Nikki, but still, I know Will can just go back home to England, to across the pond when this thing implodes, but he doesn't have to work for or with Triple H. But some of these guys that live over here might want to fucking watch out.
But again, no one's really talking about Samoa Joe, the world champion. No one's talking about his thing with Swerve anymore. For a while, that was the only thing on the show people were talking about. And then the big Trent heel turn. It'd be like if in 95, Butch turned on Luke. Who gives a shit?
No, honestly, I think that would have gotten a lot more emotional response. Think about it. Especially think of the children.
Does he turn back into like a sheep herder? Does he go crazy?
No, yes, he would go back all the way back to the fucking Kiwi sheep herders of the old days. But anyway, the point is, I think they think that everybody is going to watch this show waiting to see what they have advertised in a roundabout way. And they're still billing it that way. Unseen security camera footage of All In Wembley backstage. They can't even mention Punk's name. They are alluding to something that they're thinking they're going to draw a ratings number off of, or somehow they've sold Tony. Somebody, wink wink, has sold Tony. Oh, it'll be big ratings. And they can't even mention the guy's name that they're going to try to draw the rating off of. And they can't come out and say it's the incident where CM Punk choked out Jack Perry. They just have to. So they've been advertising for 4 days, starting in the middle of the night, security camera footage from backstage at All In of an incident. The fuck? And then they send the TNT title match out there with Penthouse and Edge. And, you know, I started to nod off and I got distracted with petting Harley on the head. But did Edge actually ever get any offense in this match, or did Penthouse just beat the shit out of him for 15 minutes?
This match was brutal. At times, the crowd was dead quiet. Not like just quiet, but dead quiet. It sounded like no one was there.
You can hear murmuring, the people typing on the phone buttons with their thumbs.
This match went so long. It had no energy. It's not my style of wrestling. I didn't think this was good at all.
Well, and I know because Edge did a few of those spinning ankle head scissor Rana things, and he actually did a flying head scissors. I haven't seen anybody do since Robert Gibson in 1988. But otherwise, I think Penthouse beat the shit out of him for the entire match, and I think it was more Edge trying to show the fans that he could do a couple of the lucha moves still in his golden years, in his dotage.
Yeah, I mean, remember that promo he just did? He was talking about all the dream matches he's never had that he wants.
Well, this was a fucking dream right after you goddamn had Tomaine at a fucking truck stop. And again, Edge is still in this pecking order, one of their major stars, one of their big names, one of their top guys, and he gets a shit kicked out of it. Penthouse can't work, and nothing we say is going to change that. Nothing Edge does is going to change that. It's just empirical. He grabbed a headlock with his right arm. Did you say?
Well, it's a luchador. In lucha, they do it on the other side of the body.
Yeah, but we're in goddamn. Wait a minute. Where's the notes? We're in Charleston, West Virginia, with a guy that's trying to shoot you off so he can do something, and he had to fucking just kind of shove him and hope he turned and came back the right way. It's totally unnatural. And it's the same shit all the time with this guy, Penthouse. But anyway, he beat him up through 2 breaks. And I'm just looking to I don't remember what the finish was because I'm thinking I was writing it any second. But, oh, yeah. After the Penthouse sunset flip powerbombed him and got a 2 count, Edge speared him out of nowhere 1, 2, 3 and was lucky to get the victory. And that's when the lights went out. In Georgia, that's a night that the hung an innocent Booker. Oh. So the lights come on and Julia Hart is in the ring, and there's nothing the matter with that, but Brody King came from behind and started beating up Edge. Okay, I've got this over. And then the music plays, and here comes Willow, and she tackles Julia and starts beating her up. Well, then Brody King stops beating up Edge so he can pull Julia away from fucking Willow, and then faces off with Willow, does Brody. And it's like, oh, is he going to hit Willow? But then, hit Willow, hit Willow, hit Willow. But then somehow fucking Edge was up, and he and Brody got in an awkward fight that ended when Brody leaped over the top rope when Edge pulled it down, kind of, sort of, and the heels left. Awkward.
Well, he was too early, I guess, running to the rope, or Edge pulled it down early. What happened there?
I didn't bother to back up and analyze it because it just bleh. It was just And I mean, anybody that gives a shit enough can go back and look at it and see. But it was a combination of a lot of people running in different directions at the wrong time. I don't think anybody's going to go back and look at it, Brian.
And this sets up a mixed tag match. Are you excited for that coming out of this?
Oh, God, well, they're going to announce that later on. And boy, that immediately perked up my interest to do something else next week. It's Edge, and now they're putting him in mixed tag team matches with Hit Willow, Hit Willow, Hit Willow. Then, speaking of mixed tag teams, we had Renee Moxley Good with Chris Jericho, Hook, and Shibata. And what a mix that is. And they're going to have a 6-man tag team match tonight. So you got fair warning, folks. And Jericho he's now just saying the obvious thing that you would say if you wanted to tell everybody, I'm going to turn heel and take advantage of these youngsters. I'm a prick. He's saying, I'll start. I'll do this and that. Hook, I'll tag you. You do this and that. Then you tag Shibata, and he does this and that, and it's done. And I'll explain how you do this all, and you can breathe in my rarefied air. Like if he was trying to sucker these people in, he wouldn't be smoother than that, especially on television. And then Shapoopy has the deal on his phone where it speaks English for him. And when Jericho walks out, his phone asks Hook, what's his deal? In whatever kind of voice that it had. That sounded like, what's his deal? Right? What is this?
Every segment has been awful. Everyone who was once a star isn't. And then they just throw random people together like it's war in the 90s. The promotion, ladies and gentlemen, not, Kosovo or anything.
No, they actually were serious and meant their business.
They should lean into the idea Shibata's brain may or may not be there. Because then at least it'd be interesting. Because this isn't it. Him having a phone that'll talk for him? Whose idea was that?
How does it talk for him when he didn't talk Japanese into it and he didn't have time to fucking type that, did he?
I wasn't watching his fingers, so I don't know how fast he types.
Well, we'll let you. He's got the fastest fingers in Japan, from what I hear.
That's right. They say if he doesn't make it as a wrestler, he has a great career as a receptionist.
And speaking of receiving things, we're about to receive a package on the big rivalry that is the FTR and the Buckaroos. The rivalry has been rekindled. It has been, the interest in that, I would say, has been, nil ever since their last match. And FTR had 2 out of 3, and by some miracle. And has anybody wanted to see that anymore?
I think you could argue people were kind of tired of it before the 3rd match at Wembley.
Well, they figured out a way to have it again so that now I believe the shoe will be on the other foot, the belt will be on the other waist, whatever the fuck. The Buckaroos have to win this so they can get heat for their new characters. And they did a whole package on this rivalry. And the one thing that you could see from the package of the rivalry of the 3 matches is that in 2022, FTR were fucking over. Though the people were standing and cheering, right? And in 2023, it wasn't necessarily that bad. Early 2023, but are people standing and cheering as soon as the first note of that fucking music hits anymore? Are people thrilled and hanging on the finishes of the FTR matches? They've been nullified like the rest of the talent's been nullified already.
Again, some of that's self-inflicted too.
Well, it's been allowed to happen. As a responsible boss, producer, booker, whatever, do you allow your talent to go out on TV and commit career suicide, or do you try to prevent them from it?
It's a number of things. I mean, the Bucks right now may lay claim to being the most overpaid tag team in wrestling history because they're the highest paid. But if you really look at the value that AEW is getting from them right now, can you justify them getting millions of dollars? Or being executives? Again, how long do you get to be executives if everything goes down? Nothing ever goes up. Everything goes down.
Well, hold on now. We're going to justify everything coming up.
Well, hold on. But what I was saying, though, is that's the Bucks. And then FTR, again, people got behind them finally the way everyone thought it would always happen. And then they kind of burned it out, too. You hear a lot of listeners have emailed us. You hear a lot of people say it, just social media behavior from Dax or constantly getting beat down on TV. They've given no one reason to care about them. So you have two teams right now.
Well, no, I don't. Hold
Never
on, I
cooler.
agree. I agree with the social media, but constantly beating down on I don't think they're showing up, going, "Hey, can you guys beat the shit out of us and leave us laying flat of our face again tonight?" They're
Exactly, but how many times have you seen FTR beaten down, looking weak, just laying there?
Yes,
on TV.
Yes.
So I think
It's over.
you have two teams right now who have never been cooler, right? I mean, when was the last time either of these teams have had less buzz, less care?
And they're fighting for the tag team championship at the end of the long road of that tournament that was necessitated because they had to let Sting retire with the belts. But nevertheless, that's how, because that's what I was going to say earlier, is we couldn't figure out in what context, how, what reason were they going to present the backstage footage from the security camera at Wembley Stadium of Punk choking Jack Perry out? In what, how can they even tie this? Where did this come from? Well, we knew where it came from. It came from their still fucking mad, freaking out, jumping up and down, stamping their feet and throwing their baby rattle out of the crib about the interview that Punk did. But how were they going to justify this in their program, present this in their program as if it had anything to do with anything going on in their world on TV? That's our question. And apparently the answer is that when they had done that package on FTR and the Little Buckies and their big rivalry, and then they come to the backstage, the monitor area. There's some production area because they couldn't do this. I'm talking about Maddie and Nikki. They couldn't do this in one take because I don't even know if they can look at each other and keep a straight face, dressed in those flamboyant suits as they are, with that ridiculous facial hair colored with a Sharpie and the fake tough guy demeanor and the cheesiness of the whole presentation. But they're sitting in front of monitors so they could do as many takes of this as they needed to until they got it right. And probably also that way they didn't have to come to Charleston, West Virginia and be there in person.
No, they were there.
Were they there? Well, son of a bitch.
They were in the angle right after this. Did you not watch that?
Oh, yeah, they were, weren't they? I forgot. Well, because it was Okada. I was trying to look away from that, too. But anyway, they're sitting there on the pre-tape, and they draw the comparison to set up the reason why they're going to play this security footage is because it happened at Wembley, and that's the last time that they wrestled FTR, and because they're also EVPs, and they had this backstage incident involving two individuals, the scapegoat, Jack Perry, who's a lovable kid, and the other individual who, quote unquote, tried to make the entire show about himself. I can't make this up. That distracted us, and we couldn't, get ready, and we couldn't pray before our match, and we lost because we were distracted because of this incredible incident.
Because our friend mouthed off and someone thought that was reason enough to try to make him stop.
And also because they weren't even in the fucking video. There was nothing of them in why were they distracted? Somebody say, hey, Punk just put a face lock on Jack. Ah, shit. All right, well, we got to put our match together. What the fuck did they need to do? But the point is, that's how they figured that it was going to be a good idea to show this footage and to tease to people who didn't know what the fuck that they were talking about, in some cases, footage of Punk on the TV just to get the curiosity from the audience that they've already got watching. And that's how they tied it into their angle for the tag team title tournament final. So that's the reason they give. And they say, well, this individual, because they can't say his name. This individual is good friends with FTR. Are they the masterminds behind this entire thing? Which maybe there was something to that. But then they said, no, because they had to do the supposed pointed elbow in the ribs remark that landed flat because they don't have a goddamn wit, much less a sarcastic wit. Where Maddie said, no, you can't spread rumors. That's very unprofessional. And then they think, you could tell that I'm not sure who behind the camera, who in the truck. I would have to think Tony thought this, but they thought that this was good stuff that they were doing. And they were thrown off their games by having to deal with this stuff and got beat by FTR, but there should be an asterisk by that. And somehow the incident threatened to take down their biggest show of all time, except it didn't. And then they just show the goddamn security camera. And before we get to what that entails, Brian, any thoughts of their performance up until now?
One of the biggest problems with the Bucks in general has been their inability to understand how bad their stuff comes across. From the purely deadly school of acting, these two. It's not good. Again, you know there's some truth in what they're saying while they're working here, while they're trying to make this about FTR, who also are never there when Punk is in any of these altercations. Yeah. FTR is back at the hotel or in their locker room or whatever. But they're obsessed with him. They always try to make it like Punk did this, Punk did that. We've seen the last 2 weeks who's obsessed with CM Punk. It's Tony Khan and the Young Bucks. Why is Edge doing a promo about how great the place is? Because Punk did an interview on Ariel Helwani's podcast.
Now, be fair, when you compare numbers these days, Ariel's ahead.
The point of the matter is, what are they referring to? What are they addressing? And why? And they've made CM Punk bigger. They've somehow managed to make him bigger and look even better. And I'll save my comments about the actual footage, but again, the big takeaway, like we started this show, these guys apparently wanted to do this for a while. They thought this would help Jack Perry somehow. I don't know how. By the way, they call him the scapegoat. He calls himself the scapegoat. Who exactly pointed the finger at? Who's made him the scapegoat? Is it Tony? Is it Punk? Like, whose scapegoat is he?
Oh, well, I think that it's Tony, because Tony got mad at Jungle Boy there for costing him his biggest star, and so he sent Jungle Boy home to collect his money where he wouldn't have to talk to him. And, you know, the Lollipop Guild, they like to all be together. I'm sure the Buckaroos have wanted to do some trampoline workouts with their boy Jack, but he hadn't been around for him to. So he was made the scapegoat. It was all Punk's fault. He tried to come in here and be all goddamn business and shit.
Again, these guys had time. You have to think there was someone in one of their ears saying, this is a bad idea. This doesn't help you. This makes you guys smaller. And we'll talk about the reaction they got in the angle after this, but that was the setup to the video, and it's a video everyone has wanted to see ever since we heard there was footage.
Well, and there was no audio whatsoever, and when the Buckaroos pitched to it, they couldn't narrate over it. I'm thinking there's some legal reason that they couldn't.
So Punk doesn't sue them. That's exactly what it is.
Maybe they couldn't transform it in any way, or it would be because here's the thing. They've announced an incident took place that distracted them and caused them to lose. If we're just talking about an audience that watches this television program, if you're not following on Twitter, I know, and for our audience, that's hard. There are people out there, though, that don't even listen to us. Imagine that. But if you're just watching this TV show, not social media, whatever, they've announced backstage footage of an incident between Jack Perry and another individual. And then when the footage comes up, there's no audio and there's no narration. There's Jack coming back from his match. There is the other individual walking. None of that. You see Jack Perry, and it's in color. And there's 8 or 10 people in the immediate area. And here's one thing. The gorilla position in the Attitude Era was like a fucking 10 by 10 foot tent with a lunchroom table, a monitor, and 3 chairs and a light on the desk. And if you had room to stand in the corner, if you weren't in the way, you could sneak in there. And generally on a raised platform with pipe and drape railings. So if somebody fucking stepped the wrong way, you might eat the fucking concrete. So if any kind of skirmish got triggered in that instance, somebody might fucking take a bump. But this is a goddamn building hallway. It's lit up. There's doorways and hallways and there's 8 or 10 people, standing around doing their things. There's some producers. There's goddamn some technical people, apparently not recognizable as wrestling folks. There's wrestlers. There's everybody, right? And you see Jack Perry walk back from, his match, and you see then Punk. If you know who you're looking for, then you can see him. He's got XXX on the back of his hoodie, but otherwise you don't really know who the fuck, because his back is to the security camera. And if you're studying them, instead of everything else going on in this picture where people are talking or standing around, then you notice that they speak to each other for however many seconds. And then Punk fucking shoves him, bam, and pushes him back a little bit. And then, goddamn, as we've heard happen, snatches him in a front face lock. And then, as we've also heard, Samoa Joe was there. He was one of the people in the camera shot all along. He runs up.
A couple things there that we heard from what you have to presume is the Jack Perry side of things that were kind of disproven. We heard that Punk tried to hit Jack Perry but missed. Punk tried to get him in a headlock, but he couldn't get it, and Jack Perry escaped. Samoa Joe had to pull CM Punk away. It's the exact opposite of what happened. Chris Hero came around to help. Everyone was there. Punk did exactly what he said. All those stories about, he can't really fight, he didn't do anything to Jack Perry, that was spin from day one about this whole thing.
Well, and the fact that this was a fight, I think, was spin from day one. Because let's face it, Brian, of all the hundreds and thousands of locker room skirmishes, this, by the way, the first time a legitimate one's ever been caught on video. I'm not talking about a match that turns into a shoot or people quit cooperating, get mad or whatever. I'm talking about something in backstage or in the locker room. First time ever, because nobody had cameras. And nobody had phones. And nobody had all that bullshit. But of all of the thousands of them that have happened in pro wrestling over a period of time, there was less to this than there was to almost any of them, wasn't there? How could this be any less than a shoving match? You would escalated from shove to face lock. Boom, pull apart, in a story. Good God, this wouldn't have been remembered till Thursday years ago.
If you remember Samoa Joe at the media scrum after this, when he was asked about it, he was pretty nonchalant. I've seen worse fights. Wasn't much of anything. Tony Khan, who was on the other side of the table, whose hand reached out like a fan at some point in the video, he was scared for his life. Samoa Joe, who was in the middle of it, said, it wasn't a big deal when you watch it. It wasn't.
That's the thing. Hold on here. I got Paul Turner was there, the referee. Samoa Joe was coming from the other side from behind of Jack Perry to pull him back. Jerry Lynn, I believe it was, from the footage available, I think is the one who got Punk. And as soon as they got there and Punk let him go, the same thing that he said on the interview. He backed up and looked at everybody. He turned to the right. You can see him. You can't see Tony on this shot because he's around the corner on this shot. He turns around. He says, "This place is a joke. You're a clown. Fuck it. I quit." He turns back around and yells something across the room and fucking throws his hands up in disgust and spins around and walks off back to his locker room. And there's Jack Perry standing there dazed and confused. Yeah, Malachi Black was going with him.
Yeah.
Exactly. So the point is, everybody's story was ridiculous. This wasn't even a fight, and they were all somehow kind of shocked by all of this that Tony feared for his life and came out and said that publicly the following week on television, as we've said on this program since we heard it. That was legal verbiage that he was instructed to say by his crack legal staff at the time. It probably would have been laughed out of fucking court once they saw footage like this, trying to avoid getting sued. But also, so Tony, this was what he was feared for his life for. This was a goddamn, also the fight that we heard about that where Punk tried to sucker punch him and all this other shit. What the fuck? The only
sucker punch.
Yes.
I've seen a lot of that shit. It's not a sucker punch. If you're standing face to face with someone and saying, hey,
Yes.
you got a problem, let me know. And they're saying, do something about it.
And boom, both hands on the fucking pecs at a nice fucking velocity, gets you a few feet away, and then he did something about it. Boom, headlock done.
It's not a sucker punch if you're face to face. It's not a sucker
You're
punch if you're
standing
just
there
not...
looking at it.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
But that's what I'm saying, and it proved the story that Punk had told to the point where old Ariel Helwani actually put a split screen up on Twitter of the video of the incident on one side and Punk telling the story on the other side, and it matched up like the Dark Side of the Moon and fucking Wizard of Oz. Almost to the second he's narrating it. It is so it validated Punk's story.
But how about what we had heard? Remember, this apparently, allegedly, is the footage that Bryan Danielson and the attorney saw that made it crystal clear they had to fire CM Punk. It was this footage that we kept hearing that. Well, Danielson's his friend. And he saw the footage and he said, there's no way that we can't fire him.
Oh, yeah. Well, but now here's the thing. The attorneys I can believe, because there's still some of these fucking gutless morons out there on Twitter going, well, he assaulted a coworker. He should be fired and prosecuted. Dipshits, this isn't working in a fucking bank. The fucking hockey team got in a fight last week. Which one of those you gonna fucking fire or prosecute or whatever, you dipshits? But this wasn't even a goddamn fight. And that's the point is, I could see lawyers saying, "Oh my God," but Danielson, I'm sure he's seen a bunch of better fights than this. And the point again is, don't fuck around and find out, Jungle Jack.
Do you think he did it because he was in front of Tony? Like he thought, like if there was ever a place I'd be safe from this guy actually kicking my ass, it's right here in front of Tony Khan.
Probably just thinking, well, he doesn't have time right now. He's got to go out. I could be back in the fucking hotel by the time he gets out of the ring. Whatever the fuck. You don't know. Like I said, because these are his friends. But the point is, what it did was it confirmed the story that CM Punk told Ariel Helwani on that show of what happened. And whether you think that Punk should have fucking shoved his ass or not, personally I do, because if I saw that smarmy little fucking smart aleck face in front of me with those goddamn weird sideburns, I'd probably want to fucking snatch him around the neck. But this was not a big fucking fight. It wasn't worth firing your fucking top star over. But thank you, Tony, because we're getting great programming out of it now. I'm talking about big time programming over on the other channels since you let Punk go over to be another one of the biggest stars. Well, Cody's got the spot right now as the biggest star in the business. But I think Punk's coming up behind. Tony's let both of them go in the last 2 years. So it proves Punk's side of the story is what was legitimate and what happened. And you still, at the end of this, if you didn't know that you were looking at CM Punk, you didn't know you were looking at CM Punk. Did you? They've never said his name yet to this time.
Well, an important note, because we did see footage, I'm assuming you may have too, on Twitter, on social media, people in the room filming the Tron, the big screen, so you get the live room reaction.
Yes.
They were chanting CM Punk.
Yeah, yes.
They popped when he pushed Jack Perry and when he grabbed him.
Yes. If they could get any of their angles that they do on purpose to get over like that in front of the crowd, they'd have something. But yeah, the fans were chanting CM Punk in the building. but they still couldn't say CM Punk's name on the video that confirmed the story that CM Punk had told.
How does this help Jack Perry in any way for the future?
It doesn't, because as soon as they see Jack Perry from any time that he comes back in front of a crowd, they're going to start chanting CM Punk. Aren't they?
He's wrestling on a New Japan show in Chicago, I think, in the next week.
Whether it's New Japan, whether it's AEW, they're going to be chanting CM Punk. If they're chanting CM Punk at an AEW show now, when there's footage of CM Punk choking out Jack Perry playing on the Tron without even being identified, and what do you think they're going to be chanting when this little dipshit shows his face again?
Did you?
Go ahead.
Did you see that? You talked about the footage that Ariel Helwani put up. AEW working overtime into the middle of the night, putting up copyright strikes or going after people.
Oh, yes.
Who put up the surveillance footage.
Well, but now here, explain this to me, because yes, as soon as Ariel Helwani, he's a noted journalist. He got his copyright struck from old Aubrey Ed, Don Stevens, and got that video that I just talked about where he put it up split screen taken down. And everybody that tried to put the footage up, they've been copyright striking them. But did AEW copyright strike themselves, or did they somehow realize that they had royally fucked up after they got the reaction that they got on Twitter and on social media, where when they put the clip up on YouTube of the Buckaroos interview, which the Buckaroos came back after the clip and supposedly closed up with trying to sell their tag team match, the security camera footage wasn't in there. Did they copyright strike themselves out of trying to fix their dumb fuckery?
I don't know, because, you brought up an interesting point earlier, because we don't know how it works in England, but they got this footage and they were able to air it, but no commentary, no running dialogue, nothing to change the footage in any way. It could be their legal department saying that, but they took it out of the video. That means on their own, they didn't put it there. But the strikes that people are getting, people are getting it pulled down from Jacksonville, Florida. So AEW is pulling down other people's videos for a different reason than they pulled down their own.
Well, maybe it's the same reason. Maybe they realize, shit, we didn't want people to see this after all. But, well, then riddle me this then. They've got... What you're saying is AEW on their very own YouTube channel put up the Maddie and Nikki's interview without the security camera footage. Did they edit it, or do they pitch to footage that doesn't live there and then come back and refer to it?
I was told that it edits right from them pitching the footage to the thing with FTR, which we'll talk about shortly.
Okay, but they were pitching to the foot. They were talking about that. That was the whole setup, was talking about this footage. So how odd does that look for somebody watching it on YouTube, where they're talking about this footage was the whole reason they lost this match and this horrible distraction and all this shit with this individual, and then they go to an FTR interview?
Can you imagine going through all this and then you're going to use the footage and then you can't make any money with it?
Maybe they can't, because it's government footage. They can't monetize it on YouTube. Maybe that's it.
Maybe that was a clue. They shouldn't have put it on TV.
Maybe they shouldn't have.
Maybe that was the clue.
Well, they already knew they couldn't monetize anything on this TV show. So this, and again, before we even get to FTR coming out right then to do the things that they did, people didn't like this. Even normally the people who like this kind of thing didn't like this kind of thing. Everybody started laughing at them and laughing at Tony, the Buckaroos, the concept of this. People laughing that, what the fuck, the biggest star in your company works for the other guys, and you're trying to show footage of him and can't even say his name, and he's beating up your wrestlers. What the fuck? For all the different reasons. Have we heard from Tony Khan on this matter since in the 12 hours or whatever since this has happened?
We have not. I see someone here. I remember we talked to one of his tweets before. I don't remember which one. Gareth, WWE Gareth on Twitter. CCTV footage is classified as personal data under GDPR law in the United Kingdom. CM Punk could quite possibly do the funniest thing ever.
What?
I guess
what would be the funniest thing ever?
If it's personal data, if the footage of Punk in the fight is Punk's personal data, I think that means he could sue AEW for airing the footage.
But everybody in the fucking video then would be their personal data. Would you have to have a class action suit or a majority rules, or can anybody just get pissed off about it?
I don't know. Well, we will find out. But no, nothing. No comment from Tony Khan. No comment from the Bucks.
It wasn't even close, was it? I mean, I know I've tried to block most of the Buckaroo, fanatics out there, but I saw pretty much majority rule that it was a stupid thing they did and nobody could figure out why they did it.
It's one of the most amazing counterproductive moments in wrestling history. It's like Hogan went on Arsenio, but it was at Bash 91. No good came out of it. The Live House. The telling thing was the Live House's lack of reaction to Edge's promo last week. That should have been a sign for these guys that they're making a mistake with all this. And the CM Punk chants are louder now than they've been in AEW since he left. Because every now and then you'd hear some of them, and the AEW fans would say, "Oh, boo, don't know, he almost killed the company." They're louder than ever before lately. This was an amazing self-inflicted wound to the groin by Tony Khan and the Young Bucks, who were laughed at by everyone who watched this show. And Jim, if I had said beforehand, would you put money down on whether this will be a positive or a negative for AEW, what do you think you would have done?
Well, I would have put that money down, courtesy of our friends over at DraftKings. Because, Brian, have you heard what they got going on? There's a new deal over here. They're an official betting partner of the NBA. That's for one thing. Well, that's not new.
A new deal?
But what's new is they've got a new fantasy app. And I don't know whether this is like one of those inflatable fantasy things or whether it's battery operated or you have to plug it in, but it's a fantasy app from DraftKings called Pick Six, where apparently, here's what you do. You have to download it. You do that. You download the app, however you do those things. The DraftKings Pick Six app. Use that right now or download that right now with the code JCE. And then what you do is you select if a player will have more or less of a stat. For example, will a player have more than one rebound? Or will a player have less than 3.5 assists? Or will a player have less than 5 illegitimate children? And you pick a stat, more or less, and then you pick your favorite players, and you compete for huge cash prizes. I mean just plain big. Life-changing amount of money, especially if you currently live under a bridge. That's what you do with the DraftKings Pick Six fantasy app. Normally the fantasy apps, back in the old days where you just opened the magazine to the centerfold, but now you got to do the electronic thing. Have you opened your fantasy app lately, Brian?
I have not, but it's something I certainly need to do because the fantasy world of Tony Khan and the fantasy booking of, I don't know what I'm talking about here, but I need to open this fantasy app and find out exactly how fantastic it is.
Well, folks, right now, download the new DraftKings Pick Six app using the code JCE and take on the competition with your best NBA player picks only on DraftKings Pick Six with code JCE. The crown is yours. And folks, right here at this particular point in time is where I usually give in a brief and succinct manner all the various fine print involved with advertising the DraftKings situation for some of the people around the country who may need help with their gambling issues. But in this case, I've been told that often I fluffed through this thing because, Brian, I'm only an amateur. I'm a small-town bird lawyer, and I got into the broadcasting through the back door. So what we have done, folks, is today we have a professional announcer that will give you all the warnings and the heads up that you need to successfully navigate the dangerous and deadly world of DraftKings. And as a special added bonus today, it's going to be an old friend of ours here on the show, Styles Bitchley.
Styles Bitchley
has voiced over this brief interlude right here.
Is this why you got together with Kippelman the other day? This is what you were doing?
Yep, we went and found Bitchley and sprung him for a few hours, got him to put this on tape, and then tied those sleeves back behind his back and took him right back.
Well, let's hear what he had to say.
Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 18 and over in most eligible states. Age varies by jurisdiction. Eligibility restrictions apply. Pick 6 not available in all states, including but not limited to Connecticut and New York. For up-to-date list of states, visit dkng.co/pick6states. Void where prohibited. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
Jimmy, you sure you got the right guy? I don't know if that's the same guy I'm remembering.
Well, he had his driver's license. Maybe he just picked his pocket.
Huh. Well, no one will pick yours with DraftKings. Ain't that right, Jim?
That's right. You don't have to worry about anybody picking your pocket. You're reaching in and pulling the stuff out and handing it to them.
That's right. Pick your own pocket with DraftKings. That's what we're trying to say.
Pick 6.
What's that promo code? One more time, Jim.
JCE.
That's right. Promo code JCE. But, Jim, let's get back to Dynamite and pick up right where we left things off. The Young Bucks aired the footage.
Do we have to?
This is such a fascinating show for history's sake. I do think we have to.
All right. Well, anyway, so the Buckaroos, they got up and Matty dramatically shifted his jacket and they walked off. And boy, howdy, what's going to happen next? Well, FTR was out to the ring. And in Charleston, West Virginia, FTR can't even really get him up anymore in the backbone of America. But Cash did the promo at the start, and Cash can talk. He has a good voice. He can enunciate the words. He has some emotion. But again, there's nobody producing their material. And he has to tie into this whole thing. We were ready to put this all behind us. What? Because nobody who doesn't know the story from the internet still has any idea what's going on from what they've heard on this television program. We don't know what you're talking about.
And they just saw this footage that they weren't in. We're trying to put all this behind us. You weren't even there.
Yes. But in this promo, Cash uses the phrase, we were doing some of our best shows ever. And now we're talking about 8 months ago again. Well, yes, correct. You're talking about 8 months ago again, but also that's not terminology. How does this help FTR? FTR are the ones in the tag team tournament finals. It's vital they be in the finals. And I'll get you in the vitals.
I like the idea it would be called their finals.
The finals, yes. The tag team tournament finals. All right. The point is they're not talking about winning a tag team match or putting this rivalry. They're doing more of a rah-rah speech about the company. You wouldn't use terminology best shows ever unless you're a fan on the internet, which is where they're apparently doing their research because they got no fucking bookers or writers over there. Why should they care if they were doing some of their best shows? It's about the tag team title. They sound like fans when they talk like that. And yes, you're rehashing shit from a long time ago, and Lord knows why. And then Dax did a promo somehow trying to put the Bucks over for creating AEW, but at the same time said FTR has eclipsed them, and did a rah-rah speech for the fans that, again, they already know if they know because they don't know from what you've told them. And they didn't really create any more interest in the tag team match as much as rambled around, and we got the idea that they love AEW. I don't. You tell me what the fuck's going on here now. What could they have said? I don't even know.
Well, start with the positives. Cash, I think, is really good on the mic. Just like I think he's really good in the ring, and we never see him in anything except, Dax will see in singles matches, not Cash. But they were rambling because it's illogical to try and tie all of this together. Not even being able to say what just aired, or who was in it, or what happened, or how you're involved in any of that. Who's going to mention Colt Cabana if we're going down this road? You know what I mean? Like, why don't we just have the trial of CM Punk over here, but CM Punk will be over there? And their whole thing, too, is, we're friends with Punk. That's what the whole thing here. The whole thing wasn't, we're mad at the Bucks because we need to show them once again we're the best of all time and we need the belts. It was, we're friends with CM Punk. And the Bucks' whole thing was CM Punk made the whole show about him. And they made the whole show about him. This isn't good. FTR's losing fans. FTR have been their own worst enemy on the mic. And it's probably tough to hear that, but FTR have been their own worst enemies on the mic.
There's not an element of we're going to put our foot down and do something about this problem that has been presented to us. There's an element of, please, everybody love the company because they're paying us a lot of money.
Just the whole thing, the way it was laid out, too. They stormed the ring for an unannounced segment to get on here and rant about this. And again, it ties back to the whole rah-rah thing. We appreciate you guys putting the company together. Whatever the fuck they're saying, it's so off-key. They've killed FTR. FTR had no momentum because of the booking. Finally got some because the fans got behind them. And now they've turned those fans to be lackluster. It's amazing.
Before we move on, I wonder if maybe Thurston Howell could do the math. They sold 200,000 tickets over the weekend in one city for the WWE. How long has it been since AEW has sold 200,000 tickets for everything they've done?
Wembley.
But no, that's what I'm saying.
Wembley. Just accept
okay,
it.
There was 75 or 80 or whatever the number was. Have they sold 120,000 since then?
Wembley, man. Look. Tony Khan has done things that no one else has ever done. Wembley.
There's probably a reason for many of those things. Also, here we come with the next round of bitch fest because people need their pussies powdered because their noses are out of snoot and they're offended by what's being said with their names not even being attached to it, but everybody knows. So now Tony's newest billion-dollar baby, Will Ostrich, comes out wearing a stylish gray sweatshirt and sweatpants, and he's pissed off at Triple H because he said there's a rumor going around that you don't want me around. There's a rumor that he's afraid of the grind because of the interview that Triple H said where he said if people want to take a spot where the schedule is better, more time with my family or whatever, that's great. But I want guys that are in it for the grind, that want to be stars, that want to go out there and do this thing, right? They're network TV, big money. So Ostrich was deeply offended, and he said as a response that he's afraid of the grind. Hey, I'm taking 8-hour flights every week to fly over from home and work one day for tens of thousands of dollars a week and then fly back home sitting you up probably in first class, at least business, sitting on your ass. How about this? I worked 7 days a week in Mid-South and I was sitting in a car 8 hours a day. What the fuck? This is his defense. He's afraid of the grind. I'm taking 8-hour flights in business. And last week they ran out of peanuts, mate.
Bruv.
I'm sorry.
I'm not Australian, bruv. Not mate. Bruv.
Cheers. So then his reasoning is, even though he's flying back and forth to England every week, he's also delivering some of the best matches that the world has ever seen. He's just not selling tickets to any of them. And then took the shot at Triple H, which was better material than the other fucking little twits had earlier, when he said, well, the guy who talked about the grind only got his job because he was grinding on the boss's daughter. Ooh. And then he used Roddy Piper's line. Like, don't throw marbles at a man with machine guns or whatever the fuck that he turned it into here about Triple H. But
yeah, Triple H is really scared now.
Oh, shaking. Except the problem is Triple H is sitting on top of his wallet and he can't see far enough down to see Will Ostrich.
Triple H is on the best run he's had as a creative force and a booker and a boss and people loving him. And this is what happens. They have dedicated 2 weeks in a row to guys responding to what Punk said in a podcast interview. Will Ospreay came out. No one even remembers that he talked about his opponent at the upcoming pay-per-view.
Which, and by the way, he did a decent promo on Bryan Danielson. He needs produced. He needs produced for his look, his gear, who and when he has a banger with, and the things that he says. But he's got talent, but he's just out there, with a chapped ass.
But no one cares about the Bryan Danielson thing. He talked about Triple H without naming him. What if Triple H comes out and goes, I was talking about Okada? That's the point. AEW had this guy go out there, their new star, in a fucking generic tracksuit. They had him go out there and cut a promo on Hunter Hearst Helmsley, who's never going to wrestle him, who's never going to be there, who, again, if you don't know what he's talking about, he doesn't really say it. So you don't know what he's talking about or why. And it's from we played the clip on the show, 25-second clip on the Pat McAfee show. Got national TV time. Renee Moxley good looked despondent, like Tony Schiavone. Tony Schiavone and her had a day where either they were hamming it up because they didn't want to look too jovial, or they really felt something about the direction of this show.
Well, Tony Schiavone, with his head in his hands in the desk, they were juxtaposing that with footage of him from WCW in 2000 with his head in his hands with the finger poke and things. And it's I can't imagine. I thought he was supposed to be one of Tony's advisors. He can't imagine that this was a good idea, any of this. So they're over here with a TV show where it's like the ICW and the PAFOs are back. All of their big grudges are against the big time wrestlers on the more popular TV program. And we're constantly being reminded that they're jealous of them because that's all they can talk about.
Tony says he's going to be aggressive with free agency. And you kind of heard the argument, I guess, for the people that want to sign there from Will Ospreay. He's happy with the lifestyle. He doesn't have to change. He can just keep doing what he's doing.
Those 8-hour flights are a grind, though, bruv.
Well, if you get a good book or, listen to some music, or if you time it right, or...
listen to a podcast like ours.
That's right. Listen to an episode and a half, and that's 8 hours right there.
There you go.
But that's the argument for the wrestlers' reasoning for going there. Based on the way AEW has handled things the last few days, in terms of a sales pitch, other than Tony's money, why would anyone want to work there right now?
Well, but here's the thing when he talks about he's going to be strong on free agency. Who would that be? Who are the other free agents that are coming up in the very near future that are going to make any difference in anything? Do you think at this point now that if somebody has a spot in the WWE that they are figured in any way that they're going to even think about leaving to do this?
No, and
at this point?
And he's already gutted New Japan.
That's what I'm saying. There's none left. He got the Ostrich from England. He got the Okada from Japan. He got the Mercedes from, I don't know, where do they make those? Germany, Austria?
The land of bad promos. I'm not exactly sure where that land would be.
And nobody's going to leave the WWE if they're on a run of any kind to do this now, even with a schedule, right? Or whatever. So what other indie darlings are they going to talk him into signing? Because that's what he's down to. Speaking of indie darlings, the 6-man tag was up next that we were talking about earlier with Jericho, Hook, and Shapoopy against Shibata. Shapoopy.
Why do you do that? Is there a song that I just don't know, or is this a rhythm you've come up with?
No, that's Shapoopy. Look it up sometime.
How does it go? What are the lyrics?
Shapoopy. So they were wrestling Lee Moriarty, Shane Taylor, and Anthony Ogogo. He's a back. And I'll save you the details of the match. Basically, we talked about it earlier, that Jericho was being the prick and the foreshadowing heelishness, saying, hey, I'll tell you what to do. You do this, you do that, you do the other thing. Bask in the glory and greatness of me, and we'll be fine. And so in the match, finally, Shapoopy.
What song is this?
Shibata accidentally boots Jericho off the apron. And he goes then to tag Hook, but as Hook is reaching for the tag, Jericho pulls Hook off down to the floor. And they start arguing because Jericho's just saying, listen to me. Listen to you saying what? What are you doing? And so Shibata gets a sleeper on Lee Moriarty, but Shane Taylor comes in. Supposedly the referee is distracted by the other guy, but she turns right around. It's Aubrey, of course. Turns right around to see Shane Taylor hit him in the face with a fucking punch, and then Moriarty hits his finish 1, 2, 3. And the heels leave, but the Hook then yells at Jericho and tells him to fuck off and holds Shibata's hand up in victory. What is going to come out of this? If Jericho turns heel on Hook or stabs him in the back or whatever the fuck in some kind of way, well, you can see it coming a mile away because Hook's already said, I'm going to keep an eye on you. And Jericho is already plainly talking about basking my greatness and I'm going to tell you all everything to do. But if it was some kind of swerve and Jericho is indeed the babyface and Hook's going to turn on him, well, Jericho's acting like a dick for no reason. And if they're really going to swerve us and neither one of them's going to turn, then what the fuck is the point of all of this? Are they just trying to make it so we see what's coming a mile away so we're interested? And I don't know what this logic is.
Do the fans seem interested in Chris Jericho right now?
No.
Not in any way.
No.
Yeah, not in any way.
I repeat, no.
I'm saying not in any way. So I don't think the fans are getting any interest in any of this.
But what are they trying to do here? I don't know what they're trying to do.
Sell pay-per-views.
Well, the newest multi-million-dollar acquisition was up next. Japanese Cody, Mr. Okada, was going to wrestle a job guy named Christina Applegate. Oh, no, I'm sorry. It's Christiana Argento. Did you see this?
I mean, it was relatively short. I did see it, yeah.
Well, but how does it help? This is your new star, one of them. Why would you get a job guy that not only was going to deliberately overact with his screaming, his aggressive screaming, not screaming like, oh, don't hurt me, but screaming like, ah, and at the same time throw the fakest, weakest, most horrible looking punches and kicks like he's never been in wrestling school. And that's what he would scream and throw a couple of fake blows that Okada wouldn't sell, but it wasn't like he was throwing something that Okada wasn't supposed to sell because he was tough. It looked like he was scared he was going to hurt Okada, so he aired on the side of fake. And then Okada would take over with shit that didn't look much better, and then the other guy would scream and throw a couple more fake blows, and then Okada hit a drop kick and a clothesline, 1, 2, 3. But in that 30 or 45 seconds, everything this fucking job guy did was not only exposing the business, but making it look cheap and fake in the worst way. Why would you allow your new top guy to interact with somebody that can't do any better than that? It just don't have the guy. Don't book the guy. Pay him and send him home.
So you're not against the idea of him having a match against a job guy. It's just this guy specific.
No, this guy was fucking horrible. This guy made Okada look bad because from the very first time that he tried to lay hands on Okada, you could tell this was a fake bullshit match on a minor league show. Christiana Argento should have been fucking sent back to wrestling school without ever making national television. But I assume he's probably somebody's friend. But oh my God, it was bad fake movement and overacting silliness, like somebody won a contest to get to pretend to be a wrestler for one night. Anyway, then Okada does a charitably called a promo where Pac, I accept your challenge.
It was pretty good.
Well, it was like 8 words.
He spoke English perfectly fine. It was easy to understand.
For 8 words.
For 8 words, though. That's still
well,
something.
And he's accepting Pac's challenge. Oh, joy. But then Pac came out in the entranceway. He's jacked to the gills. He's got a physique. And next to Pac, Okada looks like an anemic Japanese twink. He's got no definition, no muscular conformation and definition, as Gordon Soley would say. And here comes this fucking muscle guy out to kick his ass. But the Buckaroos come out and they jump on Pac and super kick him. And the fans start chanting, CM Punk, CM Punk. And then FTR hit the ring and shit can Okada and start to beat up the Bucks. But Okada comes in with a chair and whacks FTR. And then they started beating up FTR. And then the people were just standing there looking at it. Just what the fuck? Just
no heat. No heat whatsoever.
Of conversation.
I've never seen anything like that. No heat. The heels are beating down FTR and the fans are just standing there not giving a shit.
And they left them laying again. So we talked earlier about FTR getting laid flat of their face and left laying every time we see them. And now Pac joined them. At least they're not lonesome down there. And then Renee Moxley Good with Thunder Rosa and Tony Storm had a champagne toast where they were going to toast with champagne. I don't fucking know or care. They go for it. Tony Storm tosses the champagne in Thunder Rosa's face and gets on her, and they have a girl fight. And Tony Storm wiped off Thunder Rosa's makeup. And here came Deonna Purrazzo and saved Thunder Rosa from Tony Storm. But when Rosa got up, she saw Deonna there and shoved her like, what'd you do to me? And Deonna said, well, fuck you then. And they missed it with the bleep and walked off. So
just a banner episode. Just in every way.
I'm telling you, the language is getting a little risque on wrestling again, Mom. Can I still watch? And then Mariah May wrestled Anna Jay.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you were happy about it.
Anna Jay looked great in there. Shows a ton of potential.
Great in where?
In the ring.
Or up where? Which direction were you looking?
Now, the fans were very quiet. I was looking at the ring on the TV. Where do you think I was? Under the ring?
Well, boy, that would be a fucking different kind of angle you could look at Anna Jay, straight from underneath.
Well, there's a new production idea that AEW could steal. But it was a match that,
that occurred. And then some brand new Japanese girl ran in for the save when Anna Jay started beating up Mariah May and drank champagne with her. No, the other way around. Yeah, no, she saved Mariah May and then drank champagne with her and kissed her. But it was more like a sister kiss.
You know, again, they're really going all balls to the wall this week. Lesbian action here on AEW TV.
Well, no. To be lesbian action, there would have had to been, if you saw like fucking tongues coming out and lolling around each other like two anteaters in a goddamn struggle for supremacy, that might be hot lesbian action.
I didn't say hot.
Well, what we had here was a little sister kiss.
I've never seen this woman before, so I'm not familiar with her. Maybe she's really good, but that's the problem. She runs out to the ring, and I don't know what her name is, but Excalibur's like, it's from Stardom. What? What's Stardom? No one knows. And then she gets in there, the division's dead, the crowd doesn't react to anything. Apparently she's Mariah May's old partner from Stardom.
Well, I understand they had a long and very fruitful partnership where they team up on a variety of things.
Boy, this show.
So then, well, it's going to get better. Are you talking about the one we're doing or the one we're talking about?
Either way.
Either way, it's going to get better because up next was the king of personality, the artist of inflection, Officer Bar Brady interviewed Mercedes Mone.
Oh, boy. You know, this time you can call her that because she ended up moaning in the segment.
Exactly. And I thought this has to be a rib because why would you put him with her? The two people in the company with the least emotion and life and realism in their voices that are just reciting shit from memory. And Mercedes recited her scripted verbiage that I have to assume was written especially for her by Alexandra Pepperday. She's got her own writer, right? We forgot about that. So apparently her own writer has been writing all the shit she ain't been saying. I had girls in OVW that had never been on TV before that did better promos than this. So she finally kind of beat around the bush and told us that Willow not only beat her and injured her in some fashion, but it was in a non-interesting way. And then, folks, they're sitting there in a room doing a sit-down pre-tape, and the lights go out on a pre-tape. And then you hear sound effects in the dark, like, oh, boo, oh, don't hurt, oh. And the lights come back on, and there's nobody there except there's Mercedes Mone laying on the ground moaning. Oh. What the... Somebody got in and out of the fucking room, a concrete block room that they were in with a giant fucking excuse for an announcer sitting next to this woman that got assaulted in the dark. And who the fuck could have done this? We didn't see anybody.
We're going to find out it was Marvez.
No, you heard what they said about Marvez, right?
No.
Fucking Marvez came in the locker room one time. He'd had a hot date. And he said, boy, I tell you, that girl last night, she told me to give her 12 inches and make it hurt. So I fucked her 3 times and punched her in the nose.
Well, again, I don't know if that joke is appropriate here, but we have to say this. Early stages, of course. But this Mercedes Mone signing does not seem like a positive for AEW. She has been exposed in a lot of ways. Again, it's early days, but it seems she's been exposed out of WWE. She can't talk. Everything has to be scripted, and she's acting, but she can't talk. Or act, apparently, from this segment. Not even going to get into the idea that apparently the House of Black can just turn out the lights anywhere they are. I can't speak either. Anyway, I can end this.
Anyway, now you can get to a point.
I'm going to get to a point. I'm going to get to 2 points. But she's been pretty awful and done nothing to help them in the ratings. And secondly, and I'll let you follow up on that, Shapoopy was in The Music Man, which I've never seen.
There you go. You've never seen The Music Man?
It's not really my style. It was sung by Buddy Hackett.
Oh, come on. Yeah, there you go. But you've never seen the Music Man at all. You don't know about all the trouble that's coming to River City. They're playing pool down there at that pool hall, the billiard parlor. Pool with a P, and that rhymes with T, and that stands for trouble. All that type of stuff. You got to watch the Music Man. Now people are going to be sending you the Music Man on DVD.
So Mercedes Mone, she's done some acting. She was a big star in WWE, obviously had a big fan base, although hasn't really shown anything in AEW in terms of moving that fan base over here under a different name.
They're over here now.
This segment was horrible.
Well, and that's, the big name girls in the business get a certain level of the, male fans that put their picture up as their Twitter picture and profile and, at Mercedes fan for life or whatever. And they don't even have to sometimes be the top main event girls. Sometimes it's just the girl that particular guy likes. And those are subsets of the fans, and they will follow a girl that from company to company because they like that girl. But apparently, as we've seen, that's not a big number, at least in Mercedes' case here. She left the WWE and did a number for New Japan, but let's face it, any increase for New Japan from what they were doing in America would be viewed as a positive. But now that she's on national TV on a national cable network in prime time in America and expected to be a big deal, I don't know why anybody thought she was going to be. I was open to it because I'd never paid attention to any of the shit she'd done before to remember it. If I have, but I was like, okay, I'll be open to it. But apparently other people remember what she's done before and still thought she was going to be good at this. And, it's part of being in the big company where they're not going to let you do stupid shit. Well, Vince would have everybody do stupid shit, but they're not going to let their talent in the WWE do stupid shit that makes them look goofy on their television unless they tell them to do it. Yeah. Anyway, speaking of goofy television, so the main event on Dynamite, and we'll get off this dead horse, and then we can beat it later on when the ratings come in, but it was the Eliminator match with Dustin and Samoa Joe. Joe had recovered. It had been an hour and a half. And they had a fight. At least these guys can work. It's not silly, but at this point, I was just tired of the show. Dustin got color. He's bleeding. Finally, he grabbed the title belt, and he was going to hit Joe, but the referee said, don't do that. So Dustin put the belt down and hit the crossroads, got a 2 count. And then Joe took back over and got Swerve's chain that he had stolen earlier. And the referee took it away. And then Joe hit Dustin with the title belt behind the referee's back in 1, 2, 3. They got the finish in by 10 o'clock. And a bit of the angle because Joe put the sleeper on Dustin. Swerve hit the ring, grabbed his chain, hit Joe, and my DVR froze. But I assume they were nearing the end.
Yes, they were. And, I like Dustin, but this was sad because it was so quiet. The crowd was dead. Bad vibes on this show. No energy and bad vibes. That was AEW Dynamite.
Boom!
Well, boom. I'll tell you what, Jim. Now's the perfect time. We will travel quickly back and forth, although it'll take a little bit longer once the show's out. But in terms of how long it'll take us, very, very quickly, like that, we will travel. We're going to travel to the ratings future. Where hopefully the cleaning lady turns off the sink upstairs. We're going to travel to the future. That's really low. Ratings and more. The show will get better, ladies and gentlemen. Let's now go to the future. This one doesn't want to stop. All right. We are here in the future, and what a future it is. A future of TV ratings. TV is still a thing here in the future. Everything is not
Ship-poopy,
streaming.
ship-poopy, ship-poopy. You transported me back to the River City for the Music Man.
Back to Buddy
Ship-poopy,
Hackett. That's right.
ship-poopy.
Well,
Yeah, that's a deep subject, as Mama Cornette used to say.
there's no time like the present to get deep, Jim. Let's talk about ratings. AEW Dynamite April 10th on TBS, 8 to 10 o'clock p.m.
With the stars, CM Punk.
With the stars CM Punk, well, the overall rating, on average, 819,000 viewers.
Huge.
That is the highest number since February 28th.
But they've all sucked since February 28th. So that's like being the, I'm sorry if I overuse this, nicest guy in prison, isn't it?
It is also the highest in the 18 to 49 key demo since January 17th. And it is 9% above last week and 6% above the trailing 4 weeks. That's for this big CM Punk reveal. So before we get to the quarterly breakdowns, almost like the Mercedes Mone debut and there was nothing. Does this number tell you anything?
Well, they were preaching to the choir to begin with because we couldn't even mention his name. So the only people that knew what they were going to see were the people who already knew what they were going to see, which is the same audience that has been watching this program, give or take, dribbles and drabs, dravas and drams, back and forth for months and months and months and months and months. And so, and even that we'll see when we get to the quarters, whether just by insinuation that people actually tuned in to see CM Punk choke Jack Perry, but it's the same people. Punk's on a whole nother level now, like the kids say. And he's on a program where better than half of those people probably don't know that this incident was going on or happened. It's a whole nother world.
Well,
I'm sure the AEW fans are nostalgic for when they could turn the TV on and watch their show with the two biggest stars in wrestling that just weren't the biggest stars in wrestling while they were there.
That were chased away by Tony Khan. Let's never forget that. All the drama backstage, all the issues with the Bucks in their camp. Whoever started it, whoever's doing it, that's one thing. The person who allowed everything to fester. The person who allowed Cody to leave. The person who allowed all these things is Tony Khan. Tony Khan has put out a tweet, Jim.
Oh, no!
Just got the great news from TBS. Last night, Wednesday Night Dynamite, up 29% from last week.
Wait, what?
And up 17% over the prior 6-week average.
Wait a minute, up 29%? How could that be possible? 30%, let's say, of 800,000 people would be a goddamn couple 100,000 people. Where's his numbers coming from?
Thank you all for watching AEW Wednesdays. See you at a stacked TBS wrestling show Wednesday in Indy and rampaging and colliding this weekend on TNT.
You didn't answer my question there, Burford.
Yeah, I don't know. Tony may have his own special stats, alternative stats. He's a statistician, isn't he? Didn't his dad give him money to open up a company so that he could do stats?
I don't know whether he's a statistician or a Presbyterian, but that doesn't have any bearing on this. How could it be up? You just said it was up 9% or something, or 7%, and he says 29%?
Let me go back to the number here. This is according to WrestleNomics.
An independent party in this whole saga.
This week's episode, again, 819,000 on average, and we'll do the real average later on.
Yeah.
Last week was 752, according to this. So that is a 9% increase.
Yeah, that kind of works out mathematically, doesn't it?
Tony says 29%. Well, it's up 30% in the key demo versus last week.
Oh, good Lord. Well, what about in nursery school? How are we doing in the nursery school students? Are we up or down in that fucking demographic also? All right, where'd they start?
Well, they started quarter 1, 8 to 8:15 p.m. Samoa Joe and Swerve Strickland's ramp angle followed by Adam Copeland versus Penta El Zero Miedo, a picture-in-picture. 981,000 viewers.
So thank Sheldon. The Big Bangers have delivered them another almost 1 million people, and I see by the average it might trend downward. But where do we stand?
Yeah, and according to the trend line here, this is kind of, for the most part, remarkably in line with the 90-day trend, but quarter two, 8:15 to 8:30 p.m., the continuation of Copeland versus Penta with picture-in-picture, 857,000 viewers.
Ouch! All right.
And it's also important to note that it was during this match that the clock went up to announce that the Young Bucks will be appearing, although I was later told that the time was wrong. So they had a ticker for when they would appear, and it was off.
Well, most of their tickers are off over there, but they lost 124,000 people on the strength of the biggest ex-WWE name that was on this program, and promising that they were going to have footage of something, but we don't know what, and we can't really say who's in it.
Right, and that was, of course, in quarter three. 8:30 to 8:45 p.m., the post-match of the previous match with Brody King, Julia Hart, Willow Nightingale, and that was it. And then the Lion Hook and Shibata backstage promo.
Shoo-poopy, shoo-poopy, shoo-poopy.
An ad break, and then the poopy continues. Mark Briscoe, Eddie Kingston, Copeland, Willow Nightingale, and Stokely Hathaway's backstage promos / angle.
They set up a mixed tag team match in that thing.
And then the Young Bucks serious backstage promo. A very serious Young Bucks today on the After School Special. And the All-In Security video. 880,000 viewers and 449 and 18 to 49 the key demo.
So they actually got 23,000 extra people based on appealing to the pool of people that knew what the fuck that they were going to see before they saw it because they couldn't tell them. And he still managed to, except for the opening salvo, the opening quarter, he drew what I assume is the highest quarter hour in the program.
And then it's back to his stars. 8:45 to 9 p.m. quarter four. FTR's live promo, an ad break, a Bryan Danielson video, and Will Ospreay's ramp promo. 822,000 viewers.
Okay, so there went about 60,000, 58 if you want to be precise. It said, well, we've seen it now.
We then go to the big 9 o'clock hour, quarter five, 9 to 9:15 p.m. A Julia Hart video, and then Lion Hook and Shibata versus Shane Taylor Promotions with picture-in-picture ads. 767,000 viewers.
G. Manelli Shelley.
Jim Manelli Shelley?
G. Manelli
That's Dean
Shelley.
Malenko's nickname. Did you know that?
I did not. I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, Jim Manelli Shelley.
So they lost on the back of Chris Jericho and his associated cohorts, 55,000 people at the top of the hour. And they are now down more than 214,000 from the start of the program.
We then go to quarter seven, 9:15.
No, it should be 6.
Is it?
We're at the top of the hour.
There's no overrun here, so I'm thrown off from what I'm usually looking at. Quarter 6.
Yeah, they accidentally ended on time this week.
9:15 to 9:30 p.m. The Dustin Rhodes backstage promo. The Okada versus Cristiano Argento, match.
Christina Applegate. She could have hit harder.
With the post-match with Pac, the Young Bucks, and FTR, the Bullet Club Gold backstage promo, an ad break, and then the Tony Storm Thunder Rosa Deonna Purrazzo ramp angle. 765,000 viewers.
Well, think about this now. They got not only the EVPs, but also one of the new $1 Million Men, Okada. And all of that, so they only lost 2,000 viewers in the 15 minutes.
We call that progress. Quarter 7, 9:30 to 9:45 p.m. The beautiful Anna Jay versus Mariah May with picture-in-picture ads.
Mariah May I?
The post-match with Mina Shirakawa and the Mercedes Mone backstage promo and acting seminar with Alex Marvez.
Hosted by Alexandra Pepperday.
759,000 viewers.
Well, so this high-priced acquisition only lost them 6,000 more viewers in the course of her contribution to the program. That's good to know.
And finally, Jim, quarter 8, no overrun this week. Thank God, because it's done nothing but hurt this company. An ad break, 9:45 to 10 p.m., an ad break. Samoa Joe versus Dustin Rhodes with picture-in-picture, and the post-match with Swerve Strickland. 723,000 viewers.
So by the time their top guy their champion gets in the ring, and people probably figure that their top babyface, Swerve, will be involved in some fashion, they said, nah, we can't take any more. So that's another 36,000, bringing the total from start to finish to 258,000 people, which is over 25% of the audience that they started out with.
Minus quarter 1, Jim, which we know is the Big Bang Theory, 796,000 viewers is the average.
Well, maybe they ought to air more of the ring camera footage of normal people's subdivisions that have more action going on than what they have on their security cameras. Hey.
This is a company that continues to shoot themselves in the foot. Swerve Strickland and Samoa Joe opened and closed the show. There was no one there at the end. The audience had gone away by the end of it. That's for the World Heavyweight title. So they're not even sitting there for that stuff. They came to see what the Bucks were going to say, a little more than usual. And then when they saw it, everyone left the way they usually do.
Yeah.
The people that were in the building, when the Bucks and Okada...
they didn't have any choice. They locked the doors when they came in.
When the Bucks and Okada were getting their heat on FTR and Pac, they either sat there silently giving them no heat or chanted CM Punk. This is an amazing misfire, and the fact that Tony Khan and the Young Bucks didn't know better is stunning.
And from the point where the security camera video showed to the end of the program, they lost 157,000 people from there.
Well, don't worry. They're coming to Louisville soon, so I'm sure that'll be the week they pick things up.
Look at here. No, I keep hearing that. It's Highland Heights, Kentucky.
Oh, yeah. Well, actually, I have a tweet from Tony right here.
I think it's somewhere around Cincinnati. I don't recognize it around here. I've never heard of an arena in this goddamn place. I don't know where they're going, actually. And I live in the state.
Tony Khan has done another one of his promotional tweets a little earlier. What a week! BCC, Don Callis family. Danielson and Claudio versus Hobbs and Fletcher. Saturday, AEW Collision, Cincinnati, Louisville, Highland Heights.
Well, what the?
Claudio versus Will Ospreay, Wednesday, Dynamite, Indianapolis. Danielson versus Ospreay, Dynasty, Sunday, St. Louis. He is so bad at Twitter. And he thinks he's good at it. That's the other amazing thing.
What does he think, that Cincinnati and Louisville is like Minneapolis and St. Paul? It's 100 fucking miles from one to the other.
It's an emerging market. It's an emerging market.
It's the same distance as it is from Philadelphia to fucking New York. Is that like the same market?
Well, you know, the big Philadelphia, Long Island market.
No. It's easier to get from Louisville to Cincinnati than it is up there, but it's, you know,
that'd be like booking a show in Trenton and saying New York, Philadelphia, come on out. Well, those were the ratings.